evening, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. This is a program tonight for young people and older people, and a program for people in the middle years. It is a program for anyone considering higher education in Arkansas. It's a program about how to pay for education beyond high school. Steadily rising tuition costs have been in the news for years, though if you followed the news at all the past few months, it has become an issue in the presidential campaign. What are the options for individuals and families? How to sort through the array of scholarships and grants that are or may be available? Who's eligible for which and for what? Questions we hope to answer in the next hour. We have assembled a first-rate panel of pros. Dr. Brett Powell is director of the Arkansas Department of Higher Education. Cheryl Lyons is director of financial aid at the University of Central Arkansas, Conway. Amy Oury is career counselor at Bryant High School, and Jamille Rogers, a media specialist for the Conway Public School system. This is your program, so we'll be accepting your calls, your emails, your tweets. Here's a toll-free number, 1-800-862-2386. Operator standing by. Email questions are very welcome. paffairs@aetn.org. And the Twitter address, #ARAsk. And with that, thanks to everybody for coming in, being a part of the panel tonight. Dr. Powell, we begin with you. If we could get an overview. We have heard so much about young people being awarded that diploma, and it is a moment of intense pride for them and for their families, and then the bill hits. Bam. Do we know how extensive? Let's hold it to Arkansas, but we'll take the national scene as well. Can we calculate the amount of average student debt at the end of a BA or BS?
Sure, we can. You know, it depends on what you're looking at. The debt levels in the state on average are about $25,000, $26,000 for a graduate of an Arkansas college university. Averages can be deceiving. You know, many students graduate with no debt. Some graduate with a bachelor's degree with $100,000 in debt. And, you know, obviously that's excessive.
Now, is that a 6 or 7 year program for a BA?
Well,
I mean, how does that?
That accumulates by students taking the maximum amount that they can borrow every semester and taking longer than 4 years to graduate. And so over time, the debt accumulates.
5 years is about the norm now, is it not, for a BA, for a bachelor's degree?
In Arkansas, it's about five and a half years for students who don't transfer at all. If they start and finish at the same institution, it's 5.5 years average in Arkansas.
Right. Well, how do the Arkansas numbers match up nationally?
It's actually, looking at it regionally, I know regional numbers better than I do national. It takes longer in Arkansas to graduate than most states in our region. We're one of the longest times to graduation among SREB region is the southern region of states, which, you know, longer time to graduate means more semesters, and that means more tuition, and that's where debt accumulates. Not
to move away from our primary subject, why do we know why it takes longer, or students typically take longer in Arkansas? Remedial or? Remediation
is part of the equation. Those students who aren't quite prepared for college level courses when they start, they need courses to get ready for the credit bearing courses, so that adds time to degree. Many students they're working to help pay part of the cost. So the more they work, the less time they have for studies, which means they take fewer hours in a semester and they stretch it out longer. There are a number of reasons, and really it varies by the student and their individual situation.
Well, let me direct this question to you and then open it to anyone who chooses to answer. The curve in terms of debt would seem to be pretty steadily higher per year. What's the primary driver here? Is it a shortage or declining state appropriations?
You know, I actually was I read a lot about higher education. I read a study within the last few days about what exactly is driving the level of debt, and state appropriations is part of the equation. Over the last 10 years or so, states have generally disinvested from higher education. As that investment declines, that means tuition rises to be able to cover the cost. So loan is the primary means to cover that rising costs, and that is a big factor in why loan debts has risen in the last 10 years.
Well, let's be fair about what are the other factors. I mean, you said it was a part of the increase. What
sure, cost is another factor. So if the revenue that's coming in declines, there are two options. You either find more revenue or you reduce expenses. Institutions are actually increasing expenses because of some of the other factors that we talked about. Remediation is flat or increasing, which means that there's need for more remedial courses. That means there's more need for tutors. Every institution has more regulations that are put on them every year, so they have regulatory costs that increase. There's more need on campuses for mental health counseling, for health services. The services that are, security increases every year, so the services that come along with education and costs in the classroom have been skyrocketing. You're
dealing with these young people on a daily basis. Either they're on their way to college or they're already there, and some are or certainly their families are calculating all the time. Maybe they're not, maybe they ought to be calculating more than they are, but they're watching the debt level rise with alarm.
Mm-hmm. They are, and loan institutions have made it easier. I mean, the more kids take out, the more money they make on the back end. And if that isn't conveyed to those students who are taking the money out at the time while they're in school, then it just means more money for them.
What to do about this? Let's say that I have a son, a daughter, junior in high school. And probably that's a little late to be thinking about paying for college anyway. Well, but let's hear your thoughts on that. For those parents who are just greeted a new arrival or who have a youngster in elementary or secondary school, when do you start planning for this?
Well, what we suggest, of course, is to the extent possible, people need to begin planning early, saving early, even if it's small amounts, you know, when they're young, and as much as they can monthly, you know, if it's $10, $20 a month, and then they can increase it over time. But if they know they want their children to be able to go to school, if they can make that a priority, of course, focusing children on their studies, you know, preparing them to be better students so that perhaps they can obtain scholarships, whether they're academic scholarships, performance scholarships. But having that mindset as a family that you want them to go to school and doing what they can as parents to save and what children can do to prepare themselves to do well in school.
Go ahead, Dr.
If I could add something related to saving for college, there are great tools that are available to families that many just don't know anything about. There's the Arkansas 529 College Savings Plan that families contribute small amounts, as you suggested, that over time they grow tax-free. Mm-hmm. So when kids are ready to go off to college, the money's sitting there and it's accumulated, and you'd be amazed what can accumulate in a 20-year time frame if you start planning early enough. So that's a big factor that many people don't consider. You ask a question about how people can plan better related to loans if they're closer to enrollment. You know, there are ways to be smarter about borrowing for college and making sure that it's affordable. You know, it's easy to calculate. If I borrow $5,000 this year, I'm probably going to borrow more than that in the next 3 years to finish, and then I can figure out pretty quickly how much I'm going to have in monthly payments as a result of that, and decide, is that affordable or not? And if it's not affordable, then perhaps you should look at other options.
And I want to come back to that in just a moment, all of that, and if I can, but we have to, and your moderator's fault, I guess we've structured this conversation thus far in the context of a 4-year BA or BS, bachelor's degree program. We're really talking about post-secondary education of all kinds, whether that's, you know, a tech program, a 2-year, an associate degree, whatever. The debt issue is still there.
Right. And that's where you've got to make wise decisions. If you're going to take out $5,000 over 4 years and you're going to have a job at the end of it, we hope, that is commensurate to that. If you're going to be a teacher, taking out $40,000 in debt is not a good choice. And it's not, don't be a teacher. We definitely want new teachers. But make a wise choice. It's not just the debt, but where do you go to school? You know, where do you maybe look at a two-year school first and use those options because they are significantly less expensive, and we have some wonderful community colleges in the state, and that significantly reduces the debt.
Another issue, most financial aid offices, I would say the vast majority, they're going to offer the student the maximum amount of aid they're eligible for, whether that's grants or loans or work study, scholarships, etc. But that doesn't mean they have to borrow the maximum.
Borrower beware, in other words.
Right.
Exactly.
So, you know, the federal government has requirements. We have to make sure students are aware of the funds that they're eligible for. So we do have to offer those monies to the student, but it's more than just tuition fees and room and board and books, but in the cost of attendance, the federal government includes transportation costs, you know, if they live off campus, room and board, personal expenses. And so you may be offered a $7,000 loan, but if you really look at your budget and you really only need $3,000, then that's what they need to borrow. And sometimes students will mindlessly, you know, accept that loan that they're offered, not thinking long term, as you suggested.
You see a car payment in there as well as tuition.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Well, let's start. Can we just begin this way, or pick it up here? What's available and to whom? Much of the financial aid is structured according to family, or some of it anyway, according to family income, academic scholarship, athletic scholarships as well. Some of which are self-defining, I guess, programs. But how to find out? We start with a guidance counselor, might be the best way to do it.
That's me, that's my job. And it's not just that, it even goes beyond that. There are millions and millions of dollars every year in private scholarships, and scholarships for things that students don't even think of. You know, you can get a scholarship based on what religion you are, on certain disabilities. I'm an example of someone, I got a scholarship 25 years ago because I have asthma. You know, so look for those and be willing to be a little bit of a detective. You can use, there's wonderful databases out there. You can just use Google or whatever search engine you like and start doing a little bit of research. And that is definitely something that we encourage students to do. Don't wait till your senior year. Start your sophomore year, your junior year. Start making a list so that you've done some of that work ahead of time, and we can reduce, you know, we know if a loan is the only way you can go to college, then by means do that. But let's get that loan as small as we can get it.
And I was that student. 11th grade, a lady named Lisa Smith, who across the state, we call her the free money lady, came to my high school, talked about scholarships that were available to go to school, and I ended up in an awkward situation because my mother died my senior year. And so we had to continue to carry her income even though it wasn't going to be there the next year. And so I didn't have a 32 on the ACT. I had a 21, and that wasn't a full ride. And so I funded my complete college education with privately funded scholarships. And so, you know, people don't think about, oh, well, that's just $2,000. But if you get $2,000, then you're working your way up the ladder.
Right.
And I might add, one of the tips that we give students when we visit with them is you have to think outside the box too when you're thinking about scholarships. And we have a program where we encourage students to think about the products you use. You get up in the morning and maybe you use a soap made by Procter & Gamble, or you wear Levi jeans, or many of those products, those companies have scholarship programs. And so you need to get on their websites and look and see. Or if you have a particular major, maybe you're going to go to a cosmetology school, and you can find out the different products they use. Some of the tools, maybe Chi may have a scholarship program. That's so depending upon your interests and the products you use, there's just a wide array of resources available.
You know, the natural reaction to that from families is, sure, there's scholarships, but there are millions of people that are going to apply for those scholarships. But the response to that is, someone has to get it. And if you don't apply, the chances of you getting it are zero.
Right.
So apply.
I have been told anecdotally that there are across the country, and perhaps across Arkansas as well, pools or accounts of scholarship money that goes untapped, unclaimed. Simply, it's there and no one knows about it, no one applies for it.
Or they know about it and they're like, well, I can't write an essay, I'm not good at that.
Right.
And a wonderful example of a student I worked with several years ago, he's in his 30s now, very, very successful in New York, but he paid for his bachelor's degree and an MBA 100% through scholarships. He wrote a lot of essays.
I'll give you a great example of a state scholarship that goes unused. We've been talking primarily about kids coming out of high school straight to college, but for non-traditional students, those who go later in life, the Arkansas Academic Challenge Scholarship, there's a non-traditional component of that, and there are millions of dollars in that scholarship that go unspent every year because people don't apply.
Well, and we were talking about this, Doctor, before the broadcast began there, and when in the context of non-traditional students, we have, I know, a great many Arkansans who come to the realization in their mid-20s or their 30s, I need more schooling. I can't get much farther or farther at all in life than I am right now unless I get a degree, be it an associate degree or a bachelor's degree or perhaps even a master's. So here they are in midlife or approaching it, and they may have family burdens. You're talking about a lot of single moms who are trying to go back to school. Realize one size doesn't necessarily fit all, but there are options available there as well.
Right, you mentioned single parents. There's a single parent scholarship fund in the state of Arkansas. The Arkansas Department of Higher Ed has the Workforce Improvement Grant, which is designated for non-traditional students. Really not those who are receiving Pell Grants. Most of them are it's geared towards middle income, or students who are not otherwise eligible for Pell Grants. So there are funds for non-traditional students as well.
We're talking about about financial aid, but for non-traditional students in particular, to do what you're saying, to improve on it, to have opportunities for additional career advancement. It may make as much sense to enroll in a short-term technical certificate program, as you mentioned earlier. Those can be completed in 6 months, much more affordable, much more manageable, and after completing a short-term certificate, they can enroll in a longer-term certificate program, and so it's more manageable bites to get to career advancement.
What say you all to those who would, and they're watching right now, wait a minute, I thought the lottery was supposed to cure all of this, the arts lottery. I thought there'd just be money for everybody. There are some limitations, and they've tightened a bit in recent years. Doc, anyone? Yes,
the lottery has been phenomenal for helping with affordability in Arkansas higher education. We award almost $100 million a year in scholarships through the lottery. But it doesn't cover all of it. It definitely is limited. So that means that it's a start, but you've got to look for other sources beyond that.
And we also have to look at economic trends with that. I work with the chamber here in Conway, and when people aren't spending money at the lottery, then of course the lottery isn't making money. And so that's another economic trend that we have to look at with that.
Okay, questions from our viewers, and this is a great one. If you know, verbatim, if you know your child wants to go to school in 6 or 7 years, or you're planning for your child to go to school in 6, 7 years, can you pay now tuition or room and board books at today's rates? Now, we've heard of this program in some other states.
I've heard about it in other states. I don't believe Arkansas has a prepaid tuition plan that I'm aware of.
I would go to the savings account that you mentioned, and that would be your wisest choice, no matter what it is. That's one of my regrets as a parent, because I'm one of those parents who I'm going to have a college freshman in the fall, and we were not wise parents. We did not set that up, and we kept saying we need to do this, we need to do this. We should have just gotten up, gone and done it. So if you want that option, go tomorrow and set up one of the accounts. Go to your local bank and set up a savings account for your child for that reason. But unfortunately, that option is not here, is it? Not in Arkansas.
Not that I'm aware of.
It's not, but the purpose of those accounts is to take take inflation out of the picture by paying at today's rates. And if the money can grow at the rate of inflation or better, then you're just as well off. So putting it in 529 plan or just a savings account, perhaps.
Good plan.
Our Roth IRA, you know, I encourage parents to always talk to their financial advisors. Even things like we have parents sometimes that put more money in their home, pay more towards their principal, and when their child gets ready to go to college, they'll sell their home and use money from that to be able to pay for college.
Onward to another question, this one from Saline County. Are there schools, institutions in Arkansas that embrace, quote, open education resources, for example, to reduce the cost of textbooks?
There are institutions. The first one that comes to mind in the University of Arkansas system, Community College in Hope. They, I know, have adopted OER textbooks within the last year or two. So students aren't buying textbooks anymore, and that's a significant part of the cost that they've taken out of the equation for those students.
It's probably, eyebrows just went up, I can feel them. The cost of textbooks at the college level is sometimes absolutely staggering to both students and parents, and sometimes to even faculty, I know.
There are more options now. For example, when I was in school, you bought your books. You bought new books or you bought used books. Now students can rent books at many institutions, and so that significantly will cut the cost of book charges by half, usually.
There's also some books that have digital editions, and they're significantly less expensive.
That's true.
A question, do the Murphy Corporation down in El Dorado and its plan, most generous, you know, to fund higher education for either El Dorado or Union County, and I apologize for not remembering, but students there. Are there other programs?
There's the Arkadelphia Promise as well, El Dorado Promise and Arkadelphia Promise.
There's I think it's called the Great River Promise in the Helena area, but I don't know as much about that one.
Saline County as well. Why, or let me rephrase this question, should parents and students themselves take a long, hard look, a self-assessment, if you will, self-appraisal, if you would? Is post-secondary for everyone? That may be heresy, but...
some sort of education, yes. You need some sort of training. But if my son walks in tomorrow and says, Mom, I want to be a welder, and that is a very much a needed job, if it's his passion, and then go for it. He's going to have a great income, a viable income, because it's a needed job. It's significantly less expensive, so, and he still has that option to do the more traditional school later, but it's got to be what's right for him. So yes, trade schools, you know, we are going to continue to need those, and depending on what school you go to, you can still use some of the financial aid.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's looking at your passion and what's right for you and the right pathway. Four-year college is not for everybody.
If you look at job trends, at what employers are looking for in the future, more and more some post-secondary credential is going to be essential for jobs of the future. That doesn't necessarily mean a four-year bachelor's degree. It could be welding, and really this is about changing mindset of what college means. It's not necessarily four-year degrees. We definitely need more people with four-year degrees in our state, but we also need more people with technical certificates and associate's degrees, and so there are multiple pathways.
Yeah.
A number of viewers have asked, could you explain in more detail the Arkansas 529 plan? How does it work? Is there additional information available?
Arkansas529.org, I believe, is their website, and obviously that would be the best source. It's a tax-deferred college savings plan. So money goes in, it accumulates tax-free, so when the money comes out of the plan, if it's used for higher education, there's no tax on what accumulated while it was there. So that's the simple description of it.
A Crawford County viewer is self-described as on disability, but wishing to obtain a master's degree. If I'm reading the question correctly, previous loan has been discharged. Can this individual get additional student loans?
There are provisions if a loan has been discharged due to disability, that there are some certifications that you can obtain from your physician that indicate that you have the ability to go to school and work so that you can obtain additional loans. But there is a specific certification that you have to receive from your physician to be able to take on additional loans at that time. But the financial aid office at the school they plan to attend can assist them with that.
From Jefferson County, if a student does not qualify for a challenge scholarship, do they use the same application to pursue a GO grant?
There's one application for all Arkansas financial aid, so scholarships at adhe.edu. There's one universal application, and that any financial aid through the state that they qualify for, they'll get through that application.
And I'll mention there's a June 1st deadline, and so students can apply now. But we hate to see it when a student comes in June 15th and they've missed the deadline for applying. So I'd plug that, June 1st.
And we encourage students, even if they think they're going to go out of state, even if they think they're going to go into the military at trade school, please go ahead and apply, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. I mean, things happen. And
you're telling young people, get on it. Fast.
Get on it fast. Like I said, I started at the beginning of my 11th grade year. And because we were talking about deadlines, a lot of the scholarship deadlines will be September of your senior year. And so you want to get that done.
Yeah, please continue, but I would note to the audience that up on the screen now is an assistance number from the Department of Higher Education, which you may wish to make note of, and we will make sure that we get it up there again before the end of the broadcast. Go ahead.
And just because those deadlines are in September, that doesn't mean that's the end of the scholarships. You need to be very careful if you're interested in Fayetteville and UCA and Arkansas State, Hendricks, whatever school, if it's out of state, make sure you know when the deadlines are. Some of them are very simple, and when you apply to the school and you're accepted, you've got it. But those might be in November, December, January. If you wait till April to apply to school, it doesn't mean you can't get in school. You just miss out on some of those scholarship opportunities.
I'll follow up with that because that's a good point. Students should apply to as many schools as they're interested in attending, whether that's admissions, have their federal financial aid applications sent there, and let the school determine how much you're eligible for, and that'll help you make your decision. And another very important tool that many families don't know about, but every school that participates in federal aid is required to have what they call a net price calculator, and it has to be on their website. And so you can go to any school's financial aid website, key in very little information, really. It take 8 to 10 minutes, and it will give you an estimate if you were in school this year, what your Pell Grant eligibility would be, what your student loan eligibility would be. I know at many schools it'll estimate if the student's eligible for academic challenge, any institutional scholarships, and even though the child may not go to school for 2 more years, it does give them a good basis to start on what are the costs and what financial aid would be available if they were in school that day. So, great resource.
We are talking here about about the, I guess, the consumer end. But here's a question from Dover, Pope County. Dover isn't Pope, I think, about what is higher ed doing to mitigate some of these costs, to hold the cost down? Is higher ed being as kind, and you hear this at the General Assembly as well, I know you do, Dr. Powell, what is higher ed, the individual institutions or systems, doing to control costs? Enough?
I could tell you from what I see that institutions they're as concerned about tuition costs as families are. You know, they're about serving students, and if students can't afford to come, then they're not. They can't serve their purpose. So I know institutions are looking for ways to be more efficient so that they don't need to increase on tuition rates every year. But it's a difficult. You know, I rattled off a laundry list of costs that increase every year earlier. So. It is hard to control some of those costs, but I know that there are ways that they are looking at can they share costs across institutions so that by buying across multiple institutions can they get the same thing at less cost, and by doing that they can reduce tuition. So there are efforts to be able to reduce what students pay.
Again, from Crawford County, and what strikes me as a quite good question, the demand for loans for post-secondary education being what it is, there are bound to be less than prudent, even illegitimate organizations or institutions that are waving dollars in front of parents and prospective students. How to vet a lender? How to go about doing that? First of all, do you accept, is that correct?
Let me clarify first. Federal student loans are actually made by the U.S. Department of Education, so they actually are the lender. They do have servicers they work with, but they all are have regulations they have to follow, and they all have the same interest rates and the same repayment terms, etc. So as far as federal aid is concerned, whatever school they plan to attend, typically their best option is going to be a federal loan. And that is important to know because there have been some schools in the media that have been criticized and have felt some repercussions by the U.S. Department of Education being closed down, or because they have not made it clear to students which loans that they're receiving are federal loans and which are private loans, because there's a big difference often in the terms. So the student does want to be prudent and in working with the school to look at federal loans first. But there are many good private lenders out there, but it is important to vet them, to compare the interest rates and the repayment terms, and look at that carefully.
Is there a significant difference typically between private and public?
Well, with federal loans, first of all, the student does not have to have a cosigner. But with most private loans, they do have to have often cosigners depending upon their credit history. Some students don't have a credit. It's not that they have bad credit, they don't have credit. So they need cosigners. But yes, typically the interest rates are a bit higher with the private loans. And often they are based on your credit history. So you could see a 6-point difference, perhaps, which is significant, right? It is.
Quite significant.
It is.
And one thing I was very impressed with, it hasn't been that long since I finished my master's, just a few years, and every year they made you take a quiz, and this is a part of FAFSA.
Right. Entrance counseling.
Exactly. So that you knew exactly, what you were getting yourself into. Do you understand what these terms mean? Subsidized, unsubsidized, and there was 3 questions that you had to read, and a fairly significant paragraph at the end of it. It was 3 questions, I think, and if you got the answer wrong, it made you go back and reread. They wanted to be sure that you understood.
Well, here comes a question from Faulkner County. Can you explain more about FAFSA?
FAFSA.
How does it work? How do you handle it?
FAFSA is fafse.ed.gov. And be very careful. It should be free. That's and just like it should be free. Otherwise, you're on the wrong website. And it is part of that is it opens up January 1st of a student's senior year. It closes, or if they're going to be a non-traditional student, that still applies January 1st. It closes June 1st. So be very careful. You can start that process before you do your taxes, but part of it is showing proof of income, because that's part of how you get your Pell Grant, and that's need-based. It's free money, but it's based on need. And it takes about 30-45 minutes. It's not a very long application.
Well, one thing I do want to say about that is I highly encourage parents to sit down with the kids at the same time and do it together. An 18-year-old probably doesn't have all of the information that they need to be able to fill the FAFSA out. So I really encourage parents to sit down with your child and do it together.
Oh, definitely.
And for a dependent student, the parent has to actually sign off on the federal aid application as well, and they have to obtain an electronic signature to have that done. So it is a good idea just to all be together, take your 30 minutes and fill that out.
From Lonoke County comes a question that mirrors several others, and that is the matter of defaulting on student debt. Either you finish the degree program or you don't, whether it's a 2 or 4 year or whatever post-secondary you may be in, and you find you simply can't do it. I mean, you're for whatever reason or whatever the circumstances may be, now what?
There are...
what are the rules on defaulting on or being forgiven?
There are a lot of options beside defaulting. Defaulting is the very last thing you want to do because it does have long-term repercussions, whether it's garnishment of wages or credit, etc. But there are, you know, if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have a job or your finances are such that you can't afford that payment, there are a number of repayment plans, whether they're graduated repayment plans, income-based repayment plans. There are a number of repayment plans. There are also deferments based on unemployment or financial hardship. There are forbearance options. So there are a lot of options to prevent someone from defaulting. So it's, you know, sometimes people have trouble and they want to stay away from the lender or the servicer. But this really is a time where you need to be in touch, and they will share with you those options.
The important thing here is before the loan goes into default, ask questions.
Right.
Go back to the financial aid office where you went to school and ask them, what can I do? Call the loan servicer and tell them, I'm having trouble making payments, what can I do? Or there are other organizations that's their purpose, is to help students sort through their options. In Arkansas, there's the Arkansas Student Loan Authority. That's their purpose, is to help people understand their loans.
Are there implications, if you're wonders, are there implications in terms of scholarship assistance, tuition assistance for those students who need remedial work? Does that make any difference at all? Say if you need 3 hours of remedial English or 3 plus 3 hours of remedial math, perhaps, to get a good, get your feet under your, in your first year of college. Does that have any impact at all?
For academic challenge, for example, you have to complete remediation within the first 30 hours of your coursework. There are some schools that allow academic scholarships based on remediation or performance scholarships. There are some schools that the policies, you're not eligible for a scholarship based on remediation, so if you need remediation. So it really is important to find out what the policies are at the school you're attending.
Do we have any indication as to when loan? I assume the caller here is talking about lottery scholarships, when the cap or the ceiling will be lifted again or increased again.
On the amount of the scholarship?
On the amount, yes, on the amount of the scholarship.
I wouldn't anticipate that happening anytime soon. You know, it's based on available revenue, and most of that comes through the lottery. Lottery revenue has leveled off and is probably at close to the level that it's going to be for the foreseeable future. So I don't imagine that the dollar amounts are going to increase anytime soon. Washington
County, is it fair to say yes, there is money available for pursuing a graduate program? Master's or a doctorate?
The funds are more limited for graduate programs. For example, there are federal student loans, but they're unsubsidized loans, meaning the interest adds up on those loans while the student is in school, as opposed to subsidized loans where the interest does not add up in school. So it is available. It's not, you know, as good a loan program. Again, there are private loans. Many colleges and universities have graduate assistantships. I was on one, for example, where you work as a graduate assistant, and they'll help with tuition and fee costs as well as pay you a wage while you're in school. So there are programs. It's just typically more restrictive.
You also have to look at loan forgiveness. I know through education, if you're a teacher and you're pursuing higher education, then there's a loan forgiveness program that's available for that.
A Benton County viewer wonders if he or she were to set up an account, savings account for college, would that account in some way, in any way, limit the student's access to scholarship assistance when comes the time for he or she to enroll? In other words, how big a part would that play in the matrix, in the calculus of determining scholarship assistance?
I don't know about scholarship assistance per se. However, when a student fills out a federal aid application, they do have to report, depending upon their income levels, they have to report their assets. And so if, you know, they have $10,000 in savings, then that would affect their eligibility for Pell Grants. I'm not sure about scholarships.
It's possible if it's a scholarship based on financial need. that might limit it because it would put them at a level where they don't have that financial need, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other scholarships. You know, those based on, you know, we call them the things that make you special scholarships, and, you know, where you work, where you have your high school job. There's tons of scholarships out there that don't look at that financial need.
For state scholarships in particular, lottery scholarship, their assets have no bearing on qualification for the scholarship.
A Sharp County viewer wants to know if higher ed is, and I think the caller has reference to advanced placement courses. Are there ways that while in high school academically, a student and her family can reduce the overall cost of post-secondary education by simply doing very well in high school? I'm trying to...
Well, it's not so much that they're reducing costs, they're reducing...
Testing out of...
Right. They are reducing the number of classes they have to take, whether it's by taking an AP class, like you mentioned, and doing very well, and you have to not be careful, that's the wrong thing, but depending on where you're going to school, schools can choose how much, you know, you have to score a 3 or higher, depending on what school you're going to and what test it is. There are also concurrent credit classes. Like, we offer a significant number of concurrent credit classes taught by our teachers that we are paired up with one of the local colleges, so they are earning transcript hours for us, but they're also earning transcript hours for the college at a significantly reduced price.
That would be lab course, 4 hours less that they have to pay for. 3 to 4 hours. So we have students who graduate from high school, they've already done Composition 1 and 2, they've already taken Western Civilization, you know, they've already taken biology, and we have students who start college, but they're already a semester ahead. Okay, are there programs that would assist in funding higher education that are available if the young man or woman would enlist in the Arkansas National Guard or the Army Reserve?
There are programs available for veterans, dependents of veterans, and then depending upon the branch, the reserves or the Guard that you sign up for, there are also benefits available. That's correct.
The GI Bill, and there are scholarships for children of retired or even grandchildren of retired or active service people.
This is something that we touched on earlier, and it's philosophical as well as fiscal. But in fact, I heard reference made to it last evening on one of the presidential debates or exchanges. At what point, and we talked about a student pursuing his or her passion. What if your passion is Roman architecture or Romance languages, and you are taking out tens of thousands of dollars in college loans? You'd best be prepared to keep going to school and hope for a faculty position or one of the very few. It's kind of a delicate balance there between one's yearnings in career yearnings, a professional, and the real world. How do counselors handle that?
That's very difficult because I'm the perfect example of that. I have my degree, my first degree is I have a Bachelor's of Arts in Spanish. I went to a private school and I did not intend to become a teacher, but that's what I ended up becoming. So I graduated with a lot of debt, and thanks to my mother, and I was able to pay that off in 10 years, which is very, very painful to think back on. That might not have been my best choice, although I love where I went to school. It's a very delicate balancing act, and if you're going to make a choice like what I did, that's what you're going to have to be prepared for, or I would have been much smarter to have pursued scholarships more. I'm old enough, though, that when I was a senior in high school, when I went to the counselor and said, hey, what scholarships are there, she handed me a stack of papers this big. And I didn't sit there and go through them like I should have. And that's, you know, that's where going back to private scholarships, if you're going to be a teacher, there are state and federal grants that you can do where instead of paying it off, you're working it off. You know, so there are options.
Yeah, everyone wants to say, young man, follow your dream. Young lady, follow that star or whatever. But on the other hand, you need to know the economic, not consequences necessarily, but the realities of once you leave the academy? What's the market?
There definitely are realities here that have to be considered. But here's another way to think about this. Your Roman architecture degree, while there may not be very many jobs in Roman architecture, there are skills that are learned through that program that don't necessarily relate only to that one area. So there are skills that translate into other jobs. And you know, speaking of reality, people change careers, I think, on average 7 times in their lifetime is what the current statistic is. So even though you may have a degree in one field, that's probably not where you're going to finish your career. So there are benefits beyond what you gain strictly from the courses in Roman architecture or Spanish.
Well, and a number of law students have no intention of practicing law, but they're headed for finance or accounting or tax practice or you know, something along that line. Back to viewers' questions, if I may. From Craighead County, why can't college admissions office do something about ACT snow days? I think apparently they missed some exams because of foul weather or something. If I can't quite make out the question, I apologize. If anybody knows exactly what the student's referring to there, or...
I wonder if what they're talking about is if they were scheduled to take their ACT test and it happened to have been a snow day, and so they were not able to take the test. For example, at many schools, the December ACT test day was the last test score schools will use for academic scholarships. And so if they were not able to take it for that reason, you know, they may not have been able to get a higher score that would allow them to receive scholarships. And, you know, that's something that just each college or university has to decide whether they will make exceptions for that. So it's worth checking with the scholarship office to determine if that's possible.
There are a number of professional I'm sorry, did I?
I was going to say, with the ACT issue, I know I was one who started taking in 10th grade. And so take it as many times as you can early so that you're not in that rut when you come down to your senior year.
And don't just take it as many times as you can. Take it as many times as you can, but do something in between. You know, go to ACT, has a wonderful website. They have a question of the day. If you do nothing but do the question of the day or take an ACT prep class, whether it's at school or privately, that question of the day takes 3 minutes. And one of the wonderful things about it and similar apps and programs is it doesn't just tell you the right answer, it tells you why it's the right answer. So it's teaching you as it goes. And it's a great tool.
There are degree programs which are not available in Arkansas, and certain professional dentistry, for example, springs to mind, although I think we may be considering addressing that. But for the meantime, does it make any difference in terms of scholarship available assistance through the state if a student is planning to pursue a degree out of state, say in Texas or a professional school in Missouri?
We do have arrangements. I mentioned the Southern Region Education Board earlier, the region that we're in. There are arrangements with other states, so those professional programs that aren't offered in Arkansas, students can study out of state, and they get a break on tuition. They pay only the in-state tuition rather than out-of-state tuition, so there is a benefit to the student if the program is not available here.
Would it make more sense for the state to make more money available to students, the caller wonders, who are enrolled in technical programs, since their graduation rate, according to the caller, seems to be better than a 4-year or 5-year program?
As long as the student is pursuing a post-secondary credential, they'll have access to the same scholarship opportunities through the state. Now, institutional scholarships might be different, but state scholarships would be available.
Well, we had that question earlier. That was from Columbia County. Is part of the problem, part of the cost problem, that too many young people are being admitted, or students are being admitted to post-secondary schools who simply aren't ready? Are they consuming an inordinate amount of resources? Should we be more discriminating in admissions?
There are more resources needed for students who aren't prepared, but I think, to me, the answer to that is if we could determine which students are going to be successful, then we would only admit those students. If we're only admitting students who we're 90% certain that they're going to graduate, then certainly we would have better graduation rates, and we would require less resources, and it probably would be less costly. But I don't think as a society that's what we want. So we admit students who perhaps they're marginal, but hopefully we put the right resources in place so that they can complete a degree or a certificate, and you know, they have a better opportunity for a better life for themselves.
Counselors I know see this a lot. I mean, you can look at young people and say, well, you know, you're going to have a problem in, I did math, a struggle.
We can, and then we try to encourage
Wasn't my
students.
gift.
Mine either. At all. We encourage students to work on the skills early while they're in high school. We've got different programs. There's community college who set up summer, like the remediation. There's actually almost bridge programs that will help students bridge that gap between high school and college.
Well, and I was going to say, it takes a holistic approach. It's not just the institution. I mean, the parent is going to have some accountability. The student is going to have to realize, I'm really a grown-up now. And so take some responsibility on that end. And then also, I'm going to say, and I saw this while I was in college, some people will just quit a class when it's hard and say, I'll take it again next semester, instead of going and talking to a teacher and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this, can you help me? I mean, because in essence, that's another bill that's going to happen if you drop a class to take it another semester.
Well, and for the student who's not good at math or needs somebody to read their paper, the majority of schools have tutoring labs. They have writing labs. Take advantage of those. And don't wait until you're behind. You know, do that up front. If you know that math is your issue or science is your issue, go in there and do your homework where you've got a tutor who can help if you need it.
Any number of young people are identifying with you. I mean, that was a pretty rough, bumpy ride you had getting that degree. How'd you work out of it? You had a big tab on the back end.
Yes, and I'm going to say on the front end, my dad and I worked really hard with securing a lot of privately funded scholarships because, like I said, I wasn't a 32 ACT. I wasn't a 4.0 student, and I wasn't that top 10 academic achievement scholar at my school that was going to get a full ride. And so we did lots of research. We found things at my dad's job, my church, and a lot of things we're just asking, you know, do you offer a scholarship? I know my dentist, he didn't, but he gave me one. And so, you know, you really have to be proactive, and the parents really are going to have to help kids be accountable and resourceful.
Are there options? Can we hit from a Sebastian County viewer ask if we can touch again on renegotiating student loans? Is that possible if the recipient is suddenly dwarfed by, swamped by financial obligations? Is it possible to go back and say, hey, can we restructure this loan? Can we work something out?
They can certainly shift the student to a different repayment plan. Again, they can talk to them about deferment and forbearance. There's also something called consolidation. Sometimes that is a good option for students. They're also going to make them aware of, and I think someone else mentioned, if they're eligible for any forgiveness programs or loan cancellations. So definitely they do need to speak with their lender anytime they have a problem.
Just about 3 minutes left in our program. I'd like to begin down here, and any closing thoughts? It's a difficult subject, but it's obviously a crucial subject to the future of young people.
One thing I want to say is it can be done. I graduated completely debt-free. I have my undergraduate degree as well as a master's that I haven't spent a penny on college yet for. And so it definitely can be done with the help of a parent and the seriousness if you want it bad enough.
Money's there. You got to look for it.
It's there.
And be judicious, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've got to use the resources you have. There is a reason why schools have counselors. That's part of our job. Between us, and if we don't know the answer, we'll send students and have them contact the college where they want to go. And between all of us, we can find a lot of resources. It's just a matter of sitting down and figuring it out if you need help.
The most important thing is to start planning college early and to apply for financial aid early. So you'll know the expectations and what help is out there available.
So tempting to look at a newborn or a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old and say, wow, that's 14, 15, 16 years old. And in the meantime, I need a new car.
Right. Doctor?
It's the most important decision that families can make, right, that individuals can make. You mentioned the state. There are definite benefits personally to someone who has post-secondary credential. There are also benefits to the state, and what benefits the state also benefits the individual, so we all are bettered by a more educated state. So it's an important decision for everyone. I mentioned earlier that more and more jobs are requiring a post-secondary credential. This is not something to let go by. It's important, and what we've been talking about is the resources to make it happen. It's about getting enrolled in the right program that's affordable and that will get you to career goals that you have.
And the higher education department, well, you've got elementary, secondary counselors prepared to help, counselors at the individual institutions, and the state office can offer assistance as well, or guidance anyway, in terms of where to look.
Of course.
Right.
With that, we are out of time. Our thanks to all of you very much for your time tonight. We hope we've provided some answers to some questions and maybe even a bit of inspiration or reassurance at a minimum. Thanks very much for joining us. See you next time.
Next time on Doc Martin.
I didn't know that you were still in college.